Why do we always end up coming after the toughest act to follow? It's really not fair. Congratulations, Sophia. So very well earned. My name is Dominic Kempson. I'm a senior principal with STANTEC Consulting Services Incorporated. And I have the honor of serving as one of today's Luncheon co-chairs with Janine McNally. So Janine, wherever you are, thank you again. I also have the special privilege of introducing our keynote speaker, Audrey Peterman. But before I do that, I'd just like to take a moment to talk a little bit about the importance of supporting this organization. Obviously, you've seen, and most of you are well aware of the many achievements of Openlands, both regionally. But I wanted to put that in a little bit of perspective for us today. The organization I work for, I'm very fortunate. We have thousands of scientists and engineers working globally on environmental and water resource issues. And when I say globally, I mean globally. We have folks working in the deserts of Australia, to the Arctic Ocean, to the coast of Louisiana. Through that work, I have the opportunity to work with many organizations, federal, national organizations, state, and others. And I just want to say, and honestly, that Openlands is a globally impressive organization. I say that from experience and from the knowledge of having worked with these organizations, and I genuinely don't think they realize how special and how well respected they are. And obviously being housed in one of the most well-recognized and largest cities in the world. But organizations like Openlands need to be supported. The work that they've done is incredibly important. I know that everybody here today understands that. We were all very, very honored to have an organization like Openlands, which is so globally impressive and well respected. So each of you has in front of you a small blue envelope. This is the begging piece when I ask you for money, by the way, in case you hadn't figured that out. So genuinely, I know that everybody here has already given, but I would genuinely ask you to allow us to continue to support Openlands' work. We certainly hold it in the highest esteem. Every penny that you put in those envelopes, I will guarantee you will find a place on the ground, will find a place back into your communities. If you don't have your checkbooks or you don't have cash on you today, that's perfectly okay. Take it home, fill it at home, take it home, give it to your friends, rich relatives, whatever may work. Please support us. It's an incredibly important regional organization. So, Openlands not only protects and restores our special natural places, but it also excels at connecting people to these vital landscapes and throughout our urban region. Jen said I had to read this part, by the way, so I'm going to read it to you. Please, if you can, take a moment to give a little extra day to support this wonderful organization. Your contribution is meaningful at any level. You all have the blue envelope. Can you all just take the blue envelope out? Does everybody know where the blue envelope is? Everybody hold up their blue envelope. Okay, if you hold the blue envelope in your left hand, you can insert money with the right hand. Just check it. I'm not going to stop till I see nobody's reaching for wallets. I'm a little worried. All right, so now it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Audrey Peterman to Chicago. Since 1995, Audrey and her husband Frank have been traveling the national parks, forest, wildlife refuges, and open spaces. Audrey is a nationally recognized leader in the movement to make America's public lands relevant to every demographic group in our population. We are fortunate to have her to speak with us today and to the importance of connecting all people to nature. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our 2016 keynote speaker, Ms. Audrey Peterman.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am thrilled to be here, and you will be thrilled to know that I will not be asking you for money. How about that? I am so happy to extend my underscoring of the wonderful mission of this great organization. I think I can say unequivocally that any entity that can bring together a room full of people such as this is obviously incredibly well supported, has tremendous leadership, and is doing amazing work. So kudos to Openlands. So I have 15 minutes today, and I intend to take you from the Milky Way galaxy across the country and back to Chicago in 15 minutes. So hang on, okay? I'd just like to give you a little bit of my backstory. Can we have the lights up, please? Because this a little more lights. Yes. So my husband, Frank Peterman, is somewhere in the room. Say hi, honey. Yes. He's the most amazing guy on earth, and I was lucky enough to marry him. And in 1992, actually, after we'd been married, we were married in 1992, and our last child was simultaneously from our blended family, graduating from college. And so we thought about what we'd like to do with the rest of our lives, now that we were like children, you know, free as birds. And we decided that we wanted to go to Belize in Central America because Frank had watched a program on TV one night in which he saw that the Belizean people cared very much about their land and felt that it was the most important thing that they had to pass on to their children. And we were like, well, that's our ethic as well. So why don't we go there and build a bed and breakfast near the rainforest in Belize and go to bed at night with the sound of the howl of monkeys in our ears, that kind of beautiful romantic dream. And so we did go to Belize, and we fell madly in love with it, and we're preparing to come back home and sell everything we had and move there. But the evening before we left, Frank was in a bar having a drink with a Belizean man. It's something he does quite frequently, being in bars having drinks. And they got to talking about cowboy movies, and they were about the same age, in their mid-50s. And apparently many cowboy movies were filmed showing scenes of the Badlands. So the gentleman said to Frank, what do the Badlands look like? And Frank said, I don't know, I've never seen it. And the gentleman said, well, but you live in America, right? And Frank said, yes, but I've never seen the Badlands. So then the man said, well, what about the Grand Canyon? And Frank said, oh, I've never seen that either. So the man pretty much, I guess, gave up, because what kind of American is it that has never seen the Grand Canyon or the Badlands in your own country? But that really hit a nerve for us, and when we came home, Frank said, you know, honey, we cannot go to the Badlands, to Belize or anywhere else, because we don't know our own country. So how about we take a couple of months off and drive around the country and go to places like the Grand Canyon and Yellowstone and Yosemite, these places that, you know, millions of people from all over the world come to see, and we've never seen, and I was, sign me up. So that started off our trip, driving around the country from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And the first national park we hit was Acadia in Maine. And how many people have been to Acadia? Exactly. So you know the feeling of landing, of driving up Cadillac Mountain and coming up to the top of the mountain above the clouds and being in this ethereal, otherworldly place where all you can see is beauty undisturbed by human hand, and you have that feeling of being one with something so enormous, and you're feeling so tiny, but you feel so connected. It was a transformative moment for me. It was actually the moment I fell in love with myself. Yes, because I realized that the same entity that made that beautiful perfection also made me, and as that was beautiful and perfect, so must I be as well. Right? And from that moment, I have seen myself as nothing but beautiful and perfect. Now, the other side of that is that I see everything and everyone else as beautiful and perfect too. So you can imagine how dazzling you all look to me. And since then, I've been to 178 other units of the National Park System, and I can tell you, from Alaska to the US Virgin Islands, the public land system in America is the repository of our natural, cultural, and historic legacy. And since then, in 1995, not seeing any non-white Americans in all the parks we went to, Frank and I decided to form an entity called Earthwise Productions, and instead of complaining about the dark, light a candle and publicize the national parks and the public land system to all Americans. Yes. So, taking you to the Milky Way, this picture of the Milky Way galaxy was actually taken in the Badlands National Park on a night when I was there in 2012. And I mention this because it's the eeriest thing on Earth to, know that you're in a little corner of this galaxy and you're seeing it outside of yourself. But I wanted to share this because I want to point out that we are all out here in a little corner of the galaxy on planet Earth, flailing in the dark, none of us knowing how we got here or how and when we will leave. So the ways that we have segregated and chopped up society into this idea of who is capable of doing what on the basis of our color and our race and our ethnicity and our economic attributes is just so bizarre, and it no longer serves us well, and it is time for us to recognize it is a falsehood and to commit to ending that. I challenge you on that today. I mention that because since 1995, tremendous numbers of well-meaning people have said to Frank and I, oh, you know, those people, you know, black people, they don't have time to care about the environment because, you know, they have so many survival issues. They have to care about the rent and the light bill and the et cetera. And how dare you? I am a citizen of the world. I have as much right as anyone to participate, and I have as much capability as anyone to participate. So let's embrace that. I show this picture of this guy, the astronaut Story Musgrave, who I met at that astronomical conference in the Badlands. And I use this picture of him. He's the guy out there in the arm of the space shuttle trying to fix the Hubble telescope. You remember when we sent up the Hubble telescope and the lens were misaligned, and then the Story Musgrave was the person chosen to go up and fix that. So he's right now performing eye surgery on the Hubble in that picture. And so when people tell me that things are hard, I say, excuse me, okay? That is my definition of hard. So if it does not rise to that, then it's not hard. And moreover, that was hard and we did it. So we can do everything and anything that we choose to and put our minds to doing. Hurtling back to planet Earth, I had to stop at the, Jean-Baptiste de Sable, the founder of Chicago. I really think that that is a very important story that we need to be talking about as we look at engaging non-white Americans. Because as I look around this auspicious room at this gathering, I'm like, okay, so Chicago is a very diverse city, right? And I do see some diversity here. But if we're going to make the kind of changes that we need to make in addressing issues of climate change, issues of adaptation, we are going to need to speedily get all hands on deck and have everybody, every ethnic group engaged with our public lands, with open lands, and with the protection of our environment and climate. So I'm supposed to talk today about how we're helping our country become more diverse in relation to the public land system. And I want to mention that when we started talking to non-white people, particularly black people, about the public lands and the Grand Canyon, et cetera, they were astonished and amazed because they'd never heard any person talk to them about these places before. And certainly they'd never had any person of color to come to talk to them about it. So finding that the public land management agencies, including the National Park System and the Forest System, the National Park Service and the Forest Service, et cetera, were falling way behind in reaching out to these demographic groups. We started in 2014 Speakers Bureau called the Diverse Environmental Leaders Speakers Bureau, which I might tell you includes mountain climbers. This is a team of mountaineers who attempted to climb Mount Denali in 2013. Actually, the guy in the green shades is a mountaineer who has already summited 4 of the tallest mountains on planet Earth, and they just missed Denali by a mere 700 feet when weather turned them back. This is an incredible group named Outdoor Afro, it's a nonprofit, national nonprofit, which has chapters in 28 states around the country, including Illinois. I invited them to come here today. Unfortunately, nobody could take the time to come because they had other things going on. But I do want to heartily recommend that we connect with that group if we want to expand the diversity of people who are connected with our open land system. This is a group of the group Diving with a Purpose. So we have, underwater archaeologists in this group and scuba divers. I'm showing you these pictures because it is not my understanding that these are common pictures in our lexicon or in our public life. There is this perception that, as I said before, that non-white people are not very engaged with the public land system or with the environment. This group is a group of activists who are very focused on climate adaptation. They're in the sea islands off the coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. And so they live in islands in the Atlantic, so they have already been dealing with the issues of climate change and adaptation for a very long time. As part of our outreach, we have taken thousands of people to visit the national parks, including this shot of these young people, these very eager young people in Everglades National Park. This is a group of people who are very aged. They're all about 55, and some of them are in their late 70s, who were in the Grand Canyon very recently. And this is a group of black boaters in the U.S. Virgin Islands. All of these people are such easy pickings for conservation organizations because they're already utilizing the natural world and very much aware of what is going on and very, very eager to be involved. So apart from working with people on the ground in communities, we're also working with Congress. And so just last month at the Congressional Black Caucus Annual Legislative Conference, we had a panel on the legacy and contributions of African Americans in the national parks and in the public land system. That's our Congressman Alcee Hastings in the center who sponsored the session. And I was very much in awe of him for having a rating of, I think, 86% or low 90s from the League of Conservation Voters. So when I learned today that your Senator Durbin has a 100% LCV rating, that is pretty phenomenal, I must say. You are very fortunate here. So we're working with the Congressional Black Caucus and the Hispanic Caucus and the Asian Pacific Caucus and asking them to help us in our effort with the current leadership of the administration. This is a picture of us. We formed an entity called the Next 100 Coalition just in March of this year, which includes people from the conservation sector, from environmental justice, from the civil rights and advocacy sector, and also from the spiritual community, who are looking to ask, well, we have asked President Obama to issue a presidential memo on the occasion of the National Park Service's centennial, August 25th. We did not succeed in getting that. However, we continue to work towards it, and we recently met with Secretary Sally Jewell at the Department of the Interior, and then more recently too with Christy Goldfuss, who is the manager of the Council on Environmental Quality at the White House. And of course, I had the opportunity to meet with President Obama and thank him for establishing Pullman National Monument here in Chicago. So I'm unsure where I am with my 15 minutes. Where's my signer with my 15 minutes? I have 5 more? Excellent. So I hope that I have established for you that there is tremendous interest and leadership in non-white communities. I feel sometimes as though I live in a parallel world because I serve on the board of major organizations, including the National Parks Conservation Association and others. And so I'm at these board meetings, and the conversation is, how do we get these people involved? And then I'm with my grassroots organizations like Green and Youth Foundation, which has tremendous leadership out of Atlanta, and others in Florida and elsewhere in Oakland, California, et cetera. And we're saying, how do we connect with the environmental sector? It's as though we're trains running on parallel tracks and never the twain shall meet. But I say to you, we should throw down the gauntlet in 2016 as we look at the dissension and disunity in our country at the current time. I am convinced that many of the answers to our issues lie in our protected public lands. It is in the national parks that you recognize and learn that every ethnic group contributed to the development of this country and to making it what it is today. There is no greater and no lesser. As Americans, our history is embedded in what we've accomplished in this country together. And I think that a lot of the dissonance that is going on is because people have such a distorted sense of our history and have really no understanding of what went on here. But when I stand here in the state where President Lincoln lived and from which he went to the White House, and I think about what he might think looking back at how our society is tearing itself apart right now, I wonder, is this what he had in mind? And again, I say, our public land system that we have protected as our natural, cultural, and historic legacy are the places where we need to go back and recover those stories so that we can see how we connect, how we are part of the whole. And as part of the Openlands, I feel that we literally have the keys to heaven. People are desperate for that connection to something real. As we hear people talk about, the different sides of looking at things, the one thing we know for certain that doesn't change, the one thing that is unequivocally real is nature. Nature is the source of everything we have, everything we are, every piece of equipment that you use, every beautiful thing that you wear. It's all about nature. And I was so happy to hear Sophia, thank you, beautiful Sophia, talk about that sense of awe, because just last week on October 7, in Parade magazine, there was a fascinating article that said, feeling awe may be the secret to health and happiness. And it went on to describe how somehow when we are in the presence of great natural views, awe binds us together. It's a likely reason human beings are wired to feel awe. It's a likely reason that human beings are wired to feel awe. Facing a great vista or a starry sky or a cathedral, we realize we're a small part of something much larger. Our thinking shifts from me to we. So I encourage you, beautiful Openlands people, it's the we. It's not the us and the them and the those and the others. It's us, it's we. It's all of us Americans moving on together in this firmament that's held together by our public land system. And I thank you and I challenge you to move on today with a new sense of appreciation of each other and of the fact that we are one nation under God, indivisible, moving toward liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
That was powerful, powerful stuff. Thank you, Audrey. What a wonderful way to conclude this luncheon and program today. I want to thank you for your amazing work to connect people of all backgrounds to nature. And we also want to congratulate Sophia Shaw, the 2016 Conservation Leadership Award recipient. One more round of applause for Sophia as well, please. My name is Derek Douglas from the University of Chicago, and I'm a board member, proud to be a board member of Openlands. On behalf of the board, we want to thank you for attending our luncheon today. We hope that you have found today's program to be a source of inspiration and empowerment. I'm confident that it was after those two wonderful speeches that we received. As a reminder, please do not forget the little blue envelopes at your place. If you believe in this work, which I know you do, please consider making a donation to ensure our continued success. Now, some final business before we leave. There will be staff at the doors as you're exiting who will be there to collect both your name tags, and they'll collect those little blue envelopes. Left hand, right. I'd also like to thank a new leaf for the beautiful centerpieces. Did you all see those? They're tremendous. So there are not enough of the centerpieces for everyone to take it home. So the staff at Openlands came up with an innovative idea. And this is in honor of Sophia, our award recipient. So in honor of Sophia, whose birthday is January 8th, I don't have the year, just the date, January 8th, whoever's birthday at the table is closest to January 8th gets to take the centerpiece home. And we leave it to among you all to negotiate that item. Anyway. All right, well, I'm almost done. Then your fighting can begin. So, thank you all again for being with us today. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you.